In order for Oklahoma State's offense to have a lot of success this year, it is likely imperative that a couple wide receivers step up to have Brennan, Presley, Leon Johnson-style seasons. If we have any deficiencies, having a conversational piece in wide receiver U is likely what it's going to take to get us over the top.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall, and I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we get to jump right into the conversation of not only second chance opportunities, which are going to be imperative, because when you look at the difference between the 2023 offense and the 2024 offense, there's some PFF grades that make it a little crazy, so you have to look a little bit deeper. And part of that depth for the success differentiation, when you have comparable PFF offensive line grades, was the Johnson connection, both Leon Johnson and Josiah Johnson. And Leon Johnson did get an opportunity, even though he only got to play in realistically 5 or 6 games. I know he did have 10 game appearances, but he was going to redshirt. So the first 4 games, 5 games he played, he literally only got a few snaps. So we all know he had really 5 games. And in that 5 games, he had 33 receptions for 539 yards at 16.3 yards per completion. Now, on top of that, throughout the pro day, getting ready for the NFL opportunity that he did in fact get, partially because he had a 35-inch vertical, he had a 10-10 broad jump, and he was framing up at a 6'5", 215 pounds, likely up in the 220 range now. He gets another opportunity with the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a big-time moment for him because as he got prepared for his opportunity in the league, he had an injury. So he missed almost 2 weeks of that rookie minicamp set of circumstances that are usually massive, whether you're going to make the roster if you're on the fringe of kind of sneaking in. He's not going to be alone in the competition, though, as he does have to go up against a couple other wide receivers, including Donovan Peoples-Jones, formerly of Michigan and the Lions, Chris Carpenter of UTSA, formerly of Colorado. Then you have Roderick Daniels from Duncanville High and SMU. Holden Willis coming out of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee State, previously with UCF. And then you have, I think Hunter Deckers is a pretty interesting bring in by the Saints as well. But there's a difference here because Chris Carpenter is 5'11", 170 pounds. Roderick Daniels is 5'9", 180 pounds. So this is really going to come down for a purposeful differentiation between X, Z, and Y receivers. For Leon specifically, likely to a battle with a Holden Willis to get the opportunity to go a little bit further in an NFL career. He's going to have a second chance because he's earned a second chance. This is absolutely awesome to see another former Cowboy get an opportunity at this second chance because it's all about second chances, especially from the wide receiver position, right? Wide receiver position, you get the opportunity to give your team a second chance when you convert 4th downs. Winning 50-50 balls is basically giving your quarterback another opportunity, a second chance, if you will. So this is a perfect time to have this conversation and also go a little bit deeper because whenever you look into the Oklahoma State, our wide receiver U conversation, it is still there, being one of only 3 teams in the country next to Bama and Pitt with 3 Blitnikoff Award winners. And then you go back to the Des Bryants of the world, and obviously what Justin Blackmon was able to do, and James Washington in college was absolutely insane. And then Tay Martin recently, he just got waived, I just read like 8 hours ago. So you're going to have an opportunity to see Leon Johnson make up for that. And we're also going to get to see Brennan Presley. Ironically, Leon didn't really get his opportunity after the injury with the Rams. And Brennan Presley is now going to get that opportunity. And size does matter because when you're 5'8", 5'9", you're relegated to a slot receiver position. You're never going to be on the outside dependent on a major 50-50 balls more often than not. So that utilization is going to be key for both dudes. It's a pretty exciting time. But now we need to talk about why this wide receiver core needs to have something comparable happen. We need to have a Tay Martin level season. We need to have somebody like Leon Johnson come in and bail us out. We need to have another slot receiver step up and perform like Brennan Presley. It appears as though Sam Jackson V is able to do that, as is Gavin Freeman and DeJuan Lofton. So the Brennan Presley area of operation might be covered up a little bit. On the outside, I think we all have massive expectations for Shotomide-King, another 6'5", 220-pound, 225-pound body that can obviously go up and get it if injuries do not prevent him, like they have prevented Talon Shetron. But that's also why we have Shamar Rigby. We also have Jalen Lloyd. We also have now brought in Cam Abshire and Christian Fitzpatrick. These are all individuals that could be able to replicate what Leon Johnson III did. I think most of us in Oklahoma State country, and I've seen this pretty widespread, Leon Johnson is a very beloved Cowboy for only being here for one season. And I think part of it is the production, of course. Part of it is because without a couple massive performances by Leon, we don't make the Big 12 title game. As a matter of fact, we might not even be deep into the conversation at the end of the season if he doesn't show up in homecoming and some other earlier games. So he's also coming off of an injury with the Rams that kind of cut his rookie minicamp OTA thing short. And he's only really played 5 games at the Power 4 level. So he's got a lot left. And we're going to need one of these wide receivers to step up, because the biggest difference that I could find, again, between 23 and 2024, well, how did Ollie Gordon rush for 1,700 yards and win the Doak Walker Award when the PFF grades for the offensive linemen are pretty comparable between 23 and 2024? It doesn't make sense. It's a head scratcher. Well, then you look at it, they had to respect the outside perhaps a little bit more. They had to send more guys deeper into the backfield defensively a little bit more often. Maybe they had to play more cover 2. They had to play more cover 3, or they had to get in some cloud because they had a respect level. This next season, people figured out how to stop Ollie and put Alan Bowman in inopportune positions. Because if you give him some time and you have some quality wide receivers like Leon Johnson, Brennan Presley, and now we saw what Dejon Stribling was able to do. But if you can isolate Dejon Stribling and double, triple team him, of course, Brennan Presley is going to do very, very good, but you can still contain him enough to not let him absolutely demolish a game. We're going to need a demolishment level individual on the outside once again, not only for the success of this offensive line and this quarterback rotation, because it is going to be most likely predicated upon mobile quarterback systems, which means the offensive line is not going to be doing anything, up the gut, I formation crazy. We're not going to run the power stuff that was more, presentable for Ollie Gordon. We're going to likely do zone blocking scheme stuff. So you had Josiah Johnson, you had Leon Johnson. This is yet another reason I think we've gone very heavily into the tight end department, to have that extra layer of security and also just a little bit more of an expansion of the playbook and make the defensive backs be a little bit more honest. Don't crowd the box as much. And if you do crowd the box, when you've got Zane Flores at 6'3", 215 pounds, running a 4.5 40, and you have Haas Haney that runs a sub 4.40. Now you have Banks Bowen that's going to be right in that comparable range as well, with 4,100 yards passing in high school. So it's not like Banks can't let her rip. I mean, his dad is Clint Bowen, former quarterback and now Cowboy quarterback coach. So I think we're in pretty good hands, but we're going to have to rely on a couple of big-time wide receiver performances throughout the course of the season to have a replication look more like 2023 as opposed to the disaster of this previous season. I think the X factor was the X receiver and, of course, the Z receiver. That made defenses be more honest. Then they figured out how to stop Ollie and how to stop Alan Bowman, and coincidentally, it was beneficial for them defensively. I think Christian Fitzpatrick could be that guy opposite of Shotomide-King. Obviously, Shamar Rigby has been able to turn some heads occasionally. Sam Jackson V is doing amazing. This is absolutely wonderful. And again, we need to have these wide receiver U conversations, since we're getting the linebacker talk brought up over and over a little bit more because of the NFL success. How ironic is it that Colin Oliver gets his number 45, and then Nick Martin gets his number 45. Ollie Gordon gets number 31. Not ideal, but he did say something pretty cool with it. It makes him reminded of the fact that there's 31 teams that passed on him. So motivationally, kind of cool. And now we get to see Leon Johnson rock number 81 for the Saints. Second chance opportunities, 50-50 balls, giving the quarterback another opportunity, winning on fourth downs to give the team more opportunities. We need more of that because clearly we're bringing in more phenomenal acquisitions in the portal, which we're about to get to. But nonetheless, one of the things that I think helped Ollie Gordon and Alan Bowman in 2023 that did not work at all in 2024 was just some of the ability for wide receivers to press and push a little bit further, a little bit deeper, and make the DBs respect the routes a little bit longer and make the back seven think a little bit harder. So this is going to be a big opportunity for this wide receiver corps to make a name for themselves, to keep Oklahoma State at least in the conversational portions of the forefront of that wide receiver you deal. We do still have that claim with the Blitnikoffs. We need to produce another. We need to have another 1,000-yard receiver, just like we did with both Tay Martin and Brennan Presley. It's an exciting time if we get that piece. I think that's the big difference in the PFF O-line grades looking so drastically off kilter a bit is the success that the wide receivers had. And we need that this year. It's all about 50-50 balls, second chances, so on and so forth. Speaking of second chances, you might want a second chance to get some things squared away for your business or your home. You need to get supplies from the best in the business, which is Supply House. Whether you're a skilled tradesman interested in plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is going to be the reliable way for you to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts to choose from and over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help on an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. It is your turn to now do the same. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, when you use the promo code SH5, it is 5% off your first order. Go to supplyhouse.com today. Electrical, HVAC, plumbing, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're getting the best for yourself, and that is with Supply House. Speaking of getting the best in talent acquisition, as you all likely know, we did pick up a massive get from Miami. And this was an individual that most people thought was going to be leaning to another SEC school or a big-time Big Ten program. So this was obviously a very big deal. But on top of that, we're going to talk about him and the offensive lineman from Nebraska that seemed to be a Wisconsin lean. On top of that, in recruiting, the Cowboys are doing some pretty spectacular things. Currently ranked number 21 in the country by 247. We were number 19 the other day. And now there's going to be a numerical component to this, right? 11 commits, 9 commits, 12 commits, 10 commits. Most teams are going to be around the same. There are going to be some with like 7 or 8. And there's obviously going to mean there's a bit of a discrepancy. But between that and time, it is fun to see where Oklahoma State currently sits, and more importantly, who they're in front of. Again, the numbers are going to equal out as the season progresses, but being number 21 in the country right now, we're right next to Florida State. We're ahead of Oregon, who we get to play in week 2. We're ahead of Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee, Iowa, Texas Tech, Mississippi State, Vandy, Bama, Texas, TCU, BYU, South Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Purdue. The list goes on and on and on. Again, not saying it's going to stay this way, but we're clearly doing something that is significantly different than what we've done before in the recruiting department, and it is paying off in spades. It's a wonderful time to be hooked up in Cowboy Country. before we talk about the transfer portal, which is obviously equally as good, just the fact that we're able to do this and the season hasn't even started yet is a pretty good indication on where we're going to stack up. And on top of that, we're going to need these other Big 12 teams to be successful as well, because we're not alone. When people look at Oklahoma State sitting at number 21, I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a surprise to some people. What's even more surprising might be the fact that Iowa State is number 14 in the country. Arizona State is number 12 in the country. KU Rock Chalk Jayhawk is number 8 recruiting class in America. On the transfer side, Texas Tech's number 2. That is going to be huge for the Big 12. We need that to continue to be successful. Just like whenever you keep scrolling and you're talking about the Bamas of the world and what Dion effects have on people, and then Oklahoma State being number 33 in the transfer portal class, and we're like number 29 in on 3. We recently just brought in some new acquisitions. Yes, we did get Nebraska offensive lineman, 6'6", 310-pound Grant Segerin, who has been recruited by all of the heavy hitters regionally, of course. Whenever we're talking about the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, there's a lot of heavy-hitting squads that wanted Grant, but he seemingly was a big-time Wisconsin lean. Not so fast. He decided to be an Oklahoma State Cowboy, yet again, an emphasis to me on the fact that we still have a lot of work to do on the offensive line, and that is okay. We talked about tight end a little bit ago, and we brought in Carson Suesu and Grayson Brousseau. We talked about Banks Bowen. We didn't get to talk enough about Bob Chick, 6'6", 305-pound offensive interior lineman from Virginia Tech. Ironically, Garrett Rangel goes to Virginia Tech. Bob Chick comes to Oklahoma State. That's the way of the transfer portal, isn't it? And then we have Eric Fletcher. Eric Fletcher is a 6'1", 180-pound defensive back by way of East Carolina, who coming out of high school was, I think, somebody that a lot of people were very intrigued by. He did get recruited by some other places like USF and FIU and Liberty. And this last season, he was productive. He's also a member of the track team. In high school, he was able to run a 10.68. So he's right around Haas Haney's speed, if not faster, from what his production was at East Carolina. And then back to what the Cowboys are doing on the recruiting landscape as it pertains to what Mike Gundy is currently cooking up. Of course, we have to have success on the season to make it more transferable. And we also have to have the ability to capitalize. And I think the offensive innovations and creativity will definitely go a long way in doing that. And same can be said about the defense. If the defense shows up and shows out, maintaining these numbers are not going to be too difficult. We obviously need that to happen, not only for perception, but just because the talent acquisition phase, you need guys to come in that are playing typically within 2 years, or you're likely in a moving on situation. So we've changed the landscape from how we typically recruit, because getting the 2 stars and building them up over years, it doesn't really work the same anymore. We're still going to have some of those dudes, but by and large, you've got to load up on talent. We're doing that in both the transfer portal and the recruiting categories. It has to stick up for the Big 12 and Oklahoma State. So we just mentioned the teams in the Big 12, like Arizona State and Iowa State and Colorado, that are recruiting to an unprecedented level, or at least to a very high degree of success in both the portal and recruiting. And this is a massive year, in my opinion, for the Big 12. What Texas got away with, maybe an egregious crime. All right, but they did win. So from a perception purpose, the Big 12 is still going to be talked about as, you know, the conference that had the gritty Arizona State and the pretty explosive and fun to watch Cam Scadaboo. But at the end of the day, not good enough to get it done. Now, that is obviously going to have part of the narrative being driven for the CFP. But I think it's also important that these recruiting numbers keep up. Because if by the end of the year, we all fall out and we fall towards the bottom, then it allows the numerical advantages that the ESPN 247 style of things get given to other squads. You want that, whether it's merited all the time or not. Like going to Texas gives you a boost. That was true when Texas was winning 6, 7, 8 games as well. So even when Texas wasn't good, just because it was Texas, was it warranted? No. Was it fair? No. Was it good for the recruit? Was it good for what would be NIL and marketing now? Absolutely. So we all, as a conference, we need to rally behind somebody this season. Yes, begrudgingly to some degree, even if it is Utah. The downside of that, of course, is that if Utah won the Big 12, then they would start screaming from the mountains how, of course, we won the Big 12 because we deserve to be in a better position in the Big 10 anyways, yada, yada, yada. But still, it was beneficial for Texas to somewhat represent the Big 12 whenever they beat us in the Big 12 championship game. It's somewhat beneficial to see a former Big 12 school do really good and then almost get beat by a current Big 12 school, but we didn't get it done. We need to shift perception, especially now that the ACC is trying to find new innovative ways to at least catch up to where the Big 12 is right now. So if we're not going to do the exclusive third-party proprietary naming rights stuff or the private equity, or the Dr. Pepper All-State stuff, then we need to keep making sure that Brett Yormark is leading the way and being that visionary. And I think it's important for him to capitalize off the recruiting rankings, off the success of this season, which is why we have to do our part in the conference and produce. We need to produce for Brett Yormark so he can help with the next line of innovation. Because if you look at the recruiting rankings at the end of the year and Iowa State, Oklahoma State, BYU, Colorado, all these teams end up popping up in there or remaining in there, that's huge. And the transfer portal, we'll talk more tomorrow about what Oklahoma State's doing specifically, but, there was a question posed on X earlier. Would you rather have the Leon Johnson from a D3 come in and be productive after being massively productive at a smaller school? Or would you rather have a former 5-star, all blue chip, all American that went to the SEC, or multiple guys that were high 4 or 5 stars that went to SEC schools that are now Cowboys? Would you prefer those former 5-star all Americans that just didn't quite work out at the SEC schools or the Big 10 schools? Or would you rather have a Division III All-American? I think it's an interesting conversation, which is why we're going to save some of that. But with all that being said, we need to rally behind each other in this conference season. Despite whatever your feelings were about Colorado, having the Deion factor is beneficial. Having Travis Hunter win the Heisman, it's beneficial for all parties involved. Arizona State making it that far, it is beneficial. Obviously, we just need somebody to kick that door down, win that game, and go prove something a little bit deeper than what most in the country can, do. Heck, you're looking about how the Big Ten and the SEC are crying and being and moaning and whining about wanting to have 4 guaranteed qualifiers. Are they better conferences? Yes. Do they make more money? Yes. Do they get higher rated recruits? Yes. Does that mean they're entitled to automatic 4 entries? I think it's ridiculous. But it's the way the world and the 16-team format seems to be coming because it's gaining momentum. Of course, it's gaining momentum with those 2 conferences. Those are the 2 conferences that benefit. But you notice that they're just upset that A, they didn't get a couple teams in that thought they could have got in, and B, that they're just not getting the guaranteed money. It is a lot. Making the CFP Final Four is huge. So if you get the bye, you automatically get that bump of the second round money. That's what it's primarily about. They already make more money than everybody else, yet it's just not enough because they do not want the Big 12 or the ACC, for that matter, ever catching them or even getting close. Are we monetarily going to get close? Probably not for quite some time, if ever. But from a competitive standpoint, we've gotten very close. TCU beat Michigan, but they got dominated in the Natty, so that's what people remember. Arizona State should have beat Texas. They definitely outplayed them all of the second half. And they did have a couple things not exactly go their way. I'm not blaming you on the refs because Arizona State should have done way more in the first half. But so we've had big moments. We've had good moments. We've had almost moments. We just got to kick the door down, and we've got to keep doing it in recruiting as well. Those numbers, for whatever reason, they do kind of matter. And if the Big 12 schools are ever going to get some of the benefits of having the star ratings boost just because they're coming to your school, we've got to start proving that it's worth it. It looks good on paper right now for us, Iowa State, Kansas State, all the other teams that are up towards the top, Arizona State, but we have to carry it through to the end of the season. All righty, y'all. Anywho, I reckon that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, make sure you share it. You leave a comment. You hit the subscribe. My podcasting people, you are everything that makes this thing go, that makes this thing work properly. So I appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. All right, y'all. Later, taters.